Hey guys, it's Vicky, and today I'm here to share with you another PBS Great American Read video. In my last video, I talked about the books on the top 100 list for the Great American Read that I had on my shelves that I wanted to get to. It's like a TBR. And in this video, I want to talk about the 5 books that I have been voting for since voting opened for the Great American Read. For those of you that didn't see my last video or aren't sure what the Great American Read is, it is a series that PBS is hosting that is taking place, it started in May, and it's taking place throughout the summer. And what it is they surveyed Americans and asking them what their favorite book is. And by book, they just mean fiction, so no nonfiction, no religious texts. Asked people what their favorite book was. From those answers, they compiled a list of 100 books, and they have opened it up now for everyone to vote online for their favorite book. And they're going to kind of do little segments throughout the summer about some of the books. And then finally in October, they're going to tally the votes and determine America's favorite book. So I have 5 here that I have been voting for since voting started because I can't narrow it down to just one because A, I mean, that would be so difficult, and B, pretty much all of these are like books that I consider favorites. So there was just, I'll be happy if any of them win. So yes, I'm going to go over those 5 books with you now. First up is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. And the reason that I think this book deserves the vote and is worthy of being on the list and is one of my favorites is because it is this whimsical, kind of wacky tale, for those of you that don't know, about a little girl who falls down a rabbit hole into this wacky land. And on the surface, it's just this kind of silly story with some very memorable characters, but underneath it's a story, to me, it's a story about that transition from childhood to adulthood. Because at the time that this book was written, children became adults when they were like 9. The protagonist, Alice, is at that juncture of her life. And Wonderland is just this place where she is trying to make sense of it in the same way that she's trying to make sense of this crazy transition that she's going through, this big life change. And it's just such a wonderful book. I love the word plays that go on in this book. Again, I love the characters. Alice, I love. Some other memorable characters. The caterpillar I always enjoyed. Also, of course, the Mad Hatter and the March Hare. It's just such a wonderful story about growing up, really. And kind of just told through this crazy story about this weird place called Wonderland. So that is why this one has been getting my vote. Next up is one that is a fairly new read for me, but it quickly became a new favorite. I actually just read it for the first time last year, and that book is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And this one I have been voting for because when I think of Gothic stories, this book, and then, of course, Wuthering Heights, which is also on the list, but I haven't been voting for. But this one comes to mind. It has such a awesome setting. And I love that it's a story about a woman, and though there is a love story going on, it's so much more than just like a love story. I think that Jane as a character, I just really enjoyed her, and I think that she's so modern in a sense, even though this book is not a modern book. This book has so much to say about being a woman, and like I said, the setting is just amazing. The writing is beautiful. It's a fantastic book, and it definitely deserves to be on the list. And like I said, all these books, I will be so happy if any of them makes gets that top spot. And this is definitely one of them. Next up, we have a favorite that you guys know, I have said before, is one of my favorite books, and it's because I read it as a child, and it just clicked with me, and I've just loved it ever since. And that book is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and I love this book, and I think that it deserves to be on the list because for it being a classic, I feel like in contemporary life today, the March Sisters they just seem very modern to me. And I love that of the four sisters, I feel like there's at least one that every girl identifies with on some level. For me, that of course is Jo. I just adore Jo. And I just love the wholesomeness of it. I love that these sisters, though they have their differences, throughout the story, they still have this deep love for each other and this awesome bond together and with their mother. And it's just such a great book about girls. And I loved that, though there was a tiny bit of a love story, and I won't spoil anything, but I loved that it didn't turn out the way most people would think it would. I think that's all I can really say without giving anything away. But I really enjoy this book, and it's one that I will continue to read over and over until I'm an old lady, and one that I cannot wait for my daughter to read, because I think it's just going to be so much fun reading this with her. The next book that I've been voting for is the one that I was very happy that it made the list, but I was kind of surprised that it made the top 100. However, it is one of my favorite books, so yes. That book is The Stand by Stephen King, and I think that it's so important, and I think it's so awesome that Stephen King made the list, because I know a lot of people have issues with his writing and whatnot. Even I do sometimes. Even I'm like, Steve, what the hell are you doing? But I think that when people look back 50 years from now, he's going to be an author that sticks out and is notable. Some of his stories are just fantastic, and this to me is definitely, I teeter between this one and it being his best work. So I was super thrilled that this book made the list. This book is a classic tale about basically an apocalyptic event, a super flu that takes out most of the population, and the people that are left are forced to kind of gather together from all over the place. They have to come together, and then just like in any kind of society or story, it becomes a good versus evil story, which I think most people can identify with. And it's just fantastic. It's one that I really want to reread someday, but it is a very long book. But it really is, like, to me, a modern classic that I think most people should give a shot, because it's more than just like a scary book. There's a lot to this book, and it has a lot to say. Yes, Stephen King, I'm so glad he made the list, and I'm so glad that The Stand made the list, and yes, I have been voting for this book every day. And then the last book that if this book wouldn't have made the list, I would have been like, what the F? Okay, people, but so I was not surprised to see this on the list, and it's one of my favorites, and it is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I read this book for the first time in high school for required reading, and I absolutely loved it, and I've read it 2 or 3 times since then, and it's just such an amazing book. I love that it takes these very hard topics, racism and violence, because it does talk about an alleged rape, and it's like a courtroom drama kind of story, but it's all told through the eyes of a little girl. And I just think that Scout is just she's such an amazing character, because she's so innocent, and just the way that she sees the world is the way that you wish most people saw the world, but unfortunately that's just not the way it is. And I just love this book so much, because there's so much innocence mixed in with these, like I said, very like heavy topics, and has one of the most infamous literary characters ever, and that is Atticus Finch. Fantastic. This book just, I don't know, it just tugs at my heart, and I'm not spoiling anything when I say this, but at the end of the book, the line, "Hey boo," it just always gets me. I almost like choke up when I read it. It's just amazing. So yes, This book is amazing, definitely deserves to be on the list, and honestly, of the 5, I wouldn't be surprised if this one won or came very close to winning. Alright guys, so those are the 5 books that I have been voting for the Great American Read that I think are good contenders to win. So please let me know down below if you have checked out the list, what books you think are going to make it, or what books you've been voting for, because I would love to know. And like I said in my last video, I will link the PBS website down below so you can look at the list if you haven't seen it yet. And yeah, like I've said in my last video, I think that this is a really great series that they're doing. It's getting me all excited about reading, and it's just a great thing. So other than that though, that's all I have for today, guys, and I hope that you're having a wonderful week, and I will talk to you very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.